The last meeting, I felt was the latest meeting on human record, it certainly exceeded anything during my duration of tenure. There was a couple of reasons for that, and they were quite valid. We used to be new councillors, and when people read the reports and went through things, they wanted to explain it, and that's absolutely fine, and that's how it should work. So you get a flavour for the rest of it. But I just want to, and also we had lots and lots of the public in, and we've got very strict guidelines on how you run these meetings, you know, and very much they are about the work we've done in. This is really for voting on decisions, noting reports, and things like that. But we live in the real world, so you have to bend a little bit. You have to give and take. Yeah. So if I appear a little more abrupt from my voice, that's why. Yeah. So we'll see how we go. But if members of the public turn up, I think you should, although we've got a 15-minute deadline and 3 minutes per person, I think there's a degree of latitude there. Somebody comes to the bother of turning up and wanted to talk, we should let them. There we go. I've said my piece. So let's next then receive and consider for approval apologies and reasons for absence.
We've got apologies from Councillor Turton, Councillor Elliott, and Councillor Gear.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? Great.
Probably not relevant, but I'm affiliated to your particular Town Football Club. But I should play badly for their football team.
Right. Okay. Item 4, chair's discretion. Anything for chair's discretion? Anybody else? No. Law will be yours.
Okay.
And we move on to public participation. Gentlemen. Let's start with one which is ridiculous.
I really don't say, but what I'd like to say, I'd like to congratulate the people who work on the town of culture. I don't hear, I think. No, I think you're one of them. Yeah, and I believe there's, I don't know who these people are, but it's a wonderful thing for us to do. And a lot of complaints about what we do, but we did come into life with that in that stage, and I'm very pleased to see that some other maybe also complain, but the bad publicity we get from Blaze or whatever saying that. But so we do appreciate the work we do, but we do need good publicity. We don't want to have us sleep all the time. So I say thank you very much for the ladies and gentlemen. We haven't worked on it. Oh, can I just ask just one other question? It wasn't the one that did the work on it.
Yeah, so the application went in via William for Kim, obviously supported by the town council, and it went through our culture club.
So, you know, I was saying to the people outside, don't know much about it if you want. But what a marvelous thing you did, because I understand if one can get grants, where if the town council did it, they couldn't. So in things of that nature, I think that's a wonderful thing you did. Thank you very much indeed.
You know.
I have two questions, normal possibly standard. The first one I didn't want to talk about it again. I noticed that there's been some budget allocated for the other road banks in Ilford. Many of the double yellow lines have been reinstated where they've been instated before. And the only single yellow line that I've seen being reinstated is outside Wethersfield. Don't know how many times this has been talked about in this room. Actually missed my attention in Mill Head. Didn't actually realise there was 2 taxi ranks in that road, not just the one. So we're here again, and I put it to you, until somebody gets hurt, it won't change. That's 2 years now since I last mentioned it.
Councillor
So I pick it up quickly, it's not on the map, it's 8 years, it's coming up
9 years ago, because I first mentioned it. Only because I used to sit in Wetherspoon in one of the hospital, you see the number of idiots come out of, like, something like it. So I mentioned this 8 years ago when I first went to the council, you don't look at this. There's, James Benjamin, there's a chap that was in charge of all this sort of thing. One nobody being us for, but eventually you picture out in, nor did the council misunderstood what they were being asked to agree to. Everybody now is supposed to be on the same page, and they're definitely going to be painted last March, as far as I know, when they're going to swap it over. So, do you know why they didn't?
To ask, sorry, can I?
Which actual bits are you talking about? Like, there's emails.
Talking the taxi ranks and the parking for Wetherspoon, so that unless you're a taxi, the front of Wetherspoon to be completely clear. So when you come down past WBTs, you don't have an accident.
Okay, I've had documents about it. 6 weeks ago or so, that's all this, because it was presumably passed quite a while ago, and then you get a long period of time where nothing is, and then we finally do the work. So I didn't, I'm not saying I don't care about it, I wasn't a councillor when it was first in issue, so I didn't really know anything about it, I've just seen the final paperwork, so to speak, on an email about 6 weeks ago, and and my comment was it was very complicated, because they've got one section where you can do this here, one section where it's something slightly different, and it's the whole part of that road has been chopped up to what looked like about 3 different parking regulations, which if that's the way it's supposed to be, that's fine, but to me it's complex, but I don't really know the history of it.
It was year last December, there was a subcommittee which I was part of to look at all the taxi ranks in the whole of North Devon, you've got to through. And the proposal was to put taxi rank in front of Wetherspoons with new signage that says no stopping, which makes it different from no waiting. If there's no waiting, you can wait for a little while. There's no stopping, you can't go there, you exit. That's right. Wow, so they opened up a taxi rank in front of Wetherspoons to stop cars and disabled bike holders stopping there. And they're going to remove the single line over there. That was passed a year last December.
I think you told me that.
Yes, and we are waiting, so we are waiting, there's been advertisement and declaration public to have their consultation, everything. They are in the final stages of doing stuff they should have been a year ago, but it's frustrating, but it's ongoing, and they said they think it will be by the end of this year, but we said that a little while ago as well. We keep hanging on, but it's district council comes through to county council, the county
Very
council
slow, it's very
are ready to
slow.
start repainting and re-signing things at some point.
They have repainted that part. Outside Wetherspoon, it's repainted, that's why I said, the yellow, that is, it's a single yellow line, so they're obviously not very negative.
Well, the next meeting I was with, I'll bring up again on behalf of us.
I would have been a slight bit honest. They had the whole new repainting all the way through and we had lots to do, so the budget been not to do. All the council had a large section, so a lot needs doing. It was near a point where what probably couldn't happen, so they had to paint it so that horses can enforce the restriction, tell them need to make it safer. Obviously, the best when the taxi ranks there, but we're getting near a point where people park there and no one gets it, so that's the worst. So painting has had to happen. I know it's not a great choice from your point of view, but the worst option is to leave it and don't involve it.
So in anticipation of your arrival next month and asking the question again, Sarah, could you get a timescale on this, or at least poke somebody in the eye?
Yeah.
Move it, I put together, back there, why I just didn't bring some white paint with them instead, you can.
See, that requires.
That's yellow, so it's yellow.
Yeah, no, I won't get into that, but, yeah, no, we could actively get the time to go to answer your question more accurately next time, rather than just, it's out there.
That's fine. I'll be seeing them tomorrow about something else. So.
Thank you, Sarah, that'd be good. Right, thank you, gentlemen. Item 6, to determine which items, if any, on the agenda should be taken with the public excluded. Part B.
I don't think there's any agenda items, however, my chair's discretion would need to, as it's contractual reasoning.
Right, so we go to part B and do your chair's discretion.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other, Chair, part B? No. Right, let's adopt the minutes of the annual meeting of the council held on the 11th of May and the full council meeting held on the 8th of June. There was two.
Yeah, I apologise, I should have, the annual meeting of the council should have been adopted in June, which is my omission, so that's why we're doing it now, but it should be done at the meeting after it's actually taken place, the month after it's taken place, so apologies for that, but
No, so I squinted at my phone, haven't got the new Outlook on the phone, but not on my laptop.
Curious. Why would that be different? Like if you're a company that you have an AGM, it's the following year's AGM that brings the minutes of that as well.
it's not an annual general meeting, it's an annual meeting of the council, that's the legislation gets passed. In fact, I had a coursework meeting today and it got brought up, so I definitely do know that it's meant to be the meeting after.
So unless anybody objects, I'm going to propose that we adopt both sets of minutes. All in favour? Anybody against? Abstentions? No, we're good. Right, item 8, minutes of the planning committee meeting to note and approve recommendations. Councillor June Williams.
As I wasn't here, I was on my cruise. I was over to my son who took, Councillor David Williams, who took the chair on that occasion.
Thank you, councillor June Williams. I hope you enjoyed the cruise well as had the work displayed. I've said the minutes of the planning meeting, very nice meeting, very simple, nothing major to discuss. People said it went better under new leadership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think. Item 9, minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting to note and approve recommendations. Councillor Trevor Huggins.
So you've had a copy of the report. It's very short meeting, quite on the back of that. Nothing major really to follow up on anything. I'll happy to take any question, but otherwise if you know the approved recommendations, the various aspects that would be great.
Thank you, Trevor. You will notice that we do not have a staffing committee minutes. That's because we didn't hold a meeting last month, so not an agenda item. There you go.
That's a bit fine.
Save you a bit more time. Yeah. So moving swiftly on to item 10, the proper officer report.
Thank you, right, my reports, obviously you've all read it. First item on there is to approve the councillor champion role for culture. I think it's obviously quite timely. Councillor Turnbull has put her name forward for it, and I think considering she was one of the members that was part of that bid that Norman's referred to earlier, I think it would be valid. So as a first recommendation, could we agree councillor champion role for culture?
Propose. You're proposing and seconding, or?
Yep.
You know, propose and second. All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Good. Welcome to the culture club.
As chair of the culture club, I think she's already quite well established.
Yeah.
My second item on my report is about the solar panel working group. So we met on the 22nd of June. We discussed within that the role, what we were going to do with regards to solar panels. I think it's a much bigger project than just sticking some solar panels on our roof. I think we need to look at things for long-term longevity, trying to find the funding, get things up in the car park, for instance, look at the Lantern Centre, double check that the Vision Centre is doing. So we get all of our assets aligned. But my first recommendation is, as per the quote that got emailed out to you very late this afternoon, apologies. Unfortunately, it took a while to get it on letterhead of paper. But there is a quote that has gone through, which is from the company of Inspired, who I understand was the installers originally. I don't know if Councillor Crabbe, considering you're part of the working group, you want to explain that a little bit better, as you probably have more understanding.
I have read your. At the budget, can't remember which figure out you were electronic information arriving.
Well, I was got a question which might trigger your salt line, if you don't mind.
No, go on.
Personally, I have no problem. I think it's a good idea to remove 2 solar panels, go down from 3.5 kilowatt to 3 kilowatt.
I thought it was 4, 3.5, again, same principle, yeah.
On the one this afternoon, 3.5 to 3. Absolutely fine, make it 600 quid to do that.
That's the one.
That's the one, brilliant. Second bit was, what's the second bit?
You want to say?
Yeah, so before you go much further, I think there were 3 parts, 3 elements to the quote.
Yeah.
One is to fix and reinstate what we already have, which was the £660 plus VAT. There was the £100 for the cleaning of the panels that were up there. We asked with regards to just to get a quote, so we had an idea, and this is not because my only recommendation is about the repair of what is there, not for the netting. The netting we inquired about just to get a ballpark figure to start those conversations as part of the working group, because I think if we are going to try and secure it on a longer term basis, we need to try and remove the damage that the seagulls are potentially doing and the birds that are doing up there. So that isn't part of what I'm asking council to approve. So
My main question is about that third part.
No. So that's, when we go up there and inspect it, remember that it was on the day it was 600, it's gone up to 660.
It's gone up.
So the inflation might be hard, you've got to look quickly on these things, don't you? So the idea, I don't think if you've got £600 a rate, or you spend £600 a rate, it's probably not a great thing to worry about spending £3,000 on netting. It may be because you go up there, it's chaos, so like 30 seagulls all trying to take the red off. And of course, they're all making a mess of the panels, they're all in amongst all the wires and everything, so it's not a good thing by any means. Whether you think it's worth spending £3,000 on a piece of netting for 600 quid for the panels, maybe not. But there is another piece of work that we're going to be looking at in the future, which may involve the lantern, may involve some car park work, may involve a new array up on the roof. And if you did that, then you would be wise to protect your, what would then be significant now, or you get rid of 10 drive lantern.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, my view is don't stress over the nets just yet. I mean, because I think once you put it up, then probably you'd be bothered to do too much civil engineering work.
well, look, they've said that they're positioned high enough that you can still walk around freely on the roof. So
I don't think, well,
But seagulls being sneaky little thinkers, as I know, and get through anything. You know, but you can also clean them 30 times for the price of their netting. You know?
yeah.
For the,
I question, I don't think it's complicated. I would think one of those squirting guns, you can get from the pound shop, and half an hour, 70 time, you can go in there, and you can have it.
It's definitely it's clearly someone told me you can just literally take the sponge and wipe.
what I would suggest, because there is another element to the
80 DJ going in every back.
There's another element to the quote, which is that assumes that if there is no electrician, that there's no electrician needed. However,
Yeah.
if an electrician is needed, it's a rate of, which has all equally gone up, £50 per hour.
5%.
Yeah, so that's also gone up by £5 from the first informal wordings to the quote. So what I would potentially suggest is that you discuss and approve whether you give it up into a value.
Yeah, so it's 660. Discuss whether you want it cleaned or not, whether you want someone on the line pass to go out there with a bottle of water, or so that's that. So let's say we do get professionally clean, that's 760, plus maybe a couple of hours for an electrician if the wiring's been damaged. They're hoping that if I disconnect and then reconnect it out, like it's put together basically.
Yeah.
So if I allow 2 hours, 3 hours, we'll be up to 760
Another 150.
Say 910 quid, up to 910 quid.
Well, I'm going to propose that we, remove those two panels at that cost or thereabouts, whatever it costs. And then clean them and then defer the netting until we get a bigger picture. We can do that easily at any of the other meetings.
Yes.
So I propose we discuss.
Just because I don't know anything about the solar on this building, I mean, what two panels actually do for this building? Will they power very much? But what does that mean in terms of, yeah, I mean, is there, is there an ambition to, you know, have a certain target to hit in terms of how much power to save, or literally just trying to be like for like replacement, or are you trying to, you know?
Well, what it is the system, there's a system out there, which when it was installed, so we get a higher rate of grant, whatever it's for a feeding tariff. If you, I think I understand, if you might go with it too much, you end up getting today's feeding tariff, which is low on the system, like, I don't know, 12.
50,
Yeah.
something like that.
So, but it's less. So what you got to be, I think it's a 4 kilowatt system, which if you take 2 panels away, it becomes a 3.5 kilowatt system. But the thing with it is, 2 panels they're removing are not replaceable. That particular style type of panel isn't available anymore. The lads that came round who were the original installers and are aware of the system said that he claims, several panels, he claims that you can't simply buy 2 new ones and bolt those into the old system. Apparently, all compatible with each other. You've got to, you know, if you've got like a Toyota, you've got to have a Toyota panel. If you've got Ford, so people, whatever. So that was their claim. So the 2 choices in front of you are: you either spend 600 quid, which gets you 3.5 kilowatts, happy days, or you spend about 9,000 and put 4 or 5, maybe 6 kilowatts back. But it's quite a chunky investment.
Yeah.
So, but that's probably the discussion, sorry, yeah,
And then the break box.
Yeah. But then, yeah. I'm only going, I mean, I've really got my own experience to go on this, and what I have, in that the new panels are really, really efficient. And therefore we would spend more money, but then you are generating, you might get a lower feed, you are to generate potentially a very large amount. So I get 40 kilowatts of my roof, which even though, yes, you get less back, if you change your tariff, but you're still generating a lot of surplus, and you might find that you're running quite a lot more of the building. And, you know, is it going for something more ambitious like that? And then you might get some feed in, and you're, because the new panels are so efficient.
Sorry, sir, what we determined was there's a whole bunch of companies we know, we've spoken to some, council Jenna. But a whole bunch of companies, as part of this building, there was scope that they could do things, and equally, we do such scope out to other assets that the council owns. But what we felt at the time was we don't actually know exactly what these assets are, and we haven't actually worked on spec. So the obviously, in terms of getting more companies in, we can try multiple companies come in, give their offer and discussion around it. So I think that was probably the ambition. Is that right? Really, was kind of to do that. This was more a quick fix to try and get it going. So we felt that if it's 600 quid, which we was at the time, it would be beneficial to get that just prepared as it is now. But with the overall understanding that the ambition would be, that's where we would end up in. However, I'm not saying.
But I will just stress up, there isn't actually you've got a lot more room. If you look at this, there's like a big greenhouse thing on top of there, which is bigger than that. And that roof in there is only as big as the kitchen and Laura's office. That's the size of the room. So it's not huge.
So I take it we're getting nothing out of it.
No.
So by spending less than 1,000 quid, we're going to get something back on the back, allowing us to expand and debate later.
Exactly that.
So, well, again, our proposal stands for.
I second proposal.
All in favour? Anybody against? Abstentions? Right, good.
Okay, right, I'll just keep going through my reports. We had the very good news that CAB are going to be back in the Ilfracombe Centre from, I'm hoping, this week, Thursday, and then they'll be in every Thursday. They're going to have 3 appointments a week, and they are pre-bookable appointments. So, I think that's really good news. And we're going to work towards trying to obviously see whether or not we can increase that offering, but, just, take it as it stands. Right, with regards to what happened with our vehicle, just to update you, obviously the employees fine, but signed off for potentially 6 to 8 weeks with a broken sternum, and is in a lot of pain, but is already going stir crazy. With regards to the vehicle, it is a total write-off. I'm still waiting on the insurance company to come back to me on that, but I have spoken to the solicitor side of them with regards to trying to claim for an additional vehicle, or at least a higher vehicle for the interim, and potentially a contractor, because obviously the work that we've now lost is quite substantial. One person, that's a lot of grass cutting we could potentially, but it's typically the wrong time of year, unfortunately, for this to have happened. But so I'm just waiting on confirmation of that. So just to keep you updated, I will obviously do whatever, and I'll try and keep everybody updated, but I'll probably be making decisions and potentially with the chair if I have to keep us going. There's 2 meetings that I need to make you aware of on the 30th of July. Typically, they both happened on the same day. The first one is that PCC ASB meeting has been moved. So obviously I'll try and encourage those that said they were going to go early June to now go to the one on the 13th of July. The other one is the parish forum meeting, which can be done online or in person with North Devon Council. It's generally quite an informative meeting. They are specifically going to be talking about LGR or local government reorganisation. If anybody ever needs that explaining to new councillors, please just come and knock on my door. I can talk your ear off. And about the local plan, because that's obviously being reviewed and renewed. So if you want to attend that one, please do let me know. I will be definitely going to that in person. I won't go into too much about devolution and LGR because I think Councillor Crabb wrote a report on the meeting that we went to. I've sent you the link with regards to the local plan. It's obviously at consultation stage, and I will run that through planning.
I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
historically, I know adopted that in Brody Reverend's done differently, which is a good idea. But historically, we have occasionally had completely separate meetings, talked about any like input to the local plan. So.
If you feel we've got.
Everybody?
Well, I'm going to bring it up at planning, which is next Monday, with all of the separate documents. As I said, my email, obviously, any councillors are very welcome to attend the planning meeting. It does not just have to be about the planning committee. So that was going to be my first port of call to, rather than setting up a whole nother meeting. So if anybody wants to, what I suggest is have a look at that link, check all the documents before you obviously attend. There's quite a few in there. Obviously, don't read absolutely everything. Read about Ilfracombe because it is about the whole of Torridge and North Devon. Focus on the Ilfracombe sections, and then we can come back with regards to that consultation. And the consultation you can fill in personally yourself. So if you feel you want to do that, please do. It is for residents and members of the public as well. So that will give you a good guide as to what we need to respond back, Councillor Brown.
Been having a wonderful position of being on the local planning committee because I get to visit told in the so at the last meeting, one of the things that was is this Ishtar, whatever it's called, identification of land. And what you would find is there is a requirement or there is an understanding that every town will be providing a load of land towards some non-existent building target which will never be met. Point being, if you think for somebody you'd like to be included, say so, because if you don't, somebody will identify a piece of land next to your house, and you've got to spend the next 12 months arguing about it, saying, I don't want none of that going go. So you can't just keep saying no, you've got to identify places where you think building is acceptable and is a good idea. And so I think that's in this part of the code. If it's not, it's coming down the track shortly. But it's all about identification of where.
Like 30% extension.
Well, it won't, because that's already in it there. This is
Yeah.
new.
Yeah, so the Southern Station is already part of the current local plan. This will be what they're putting in place for the next 30 years, I think.
No, I don't realise it's storage, local plan.
There is an element of today, yeah. Yes, that's not be too negative, but the Daily Mail will be in a minute.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah, right, so those are those things, with regards to vacant space in the Lantern and the Orphan Centre, the Lantern Nursery, we've obviously published that on our socials. I have actually emailed a number of independent nurseries that, I was given information from DCC, so I did that today, so I'll let you know if anyone comes out the woodwork on that. But the good news is that the current tenants that we have here are staying until September as they currently are. Once September comes, they're going to be staying in the Ofcom Centre, which is good news because that does mean that we've still got the mental health team here, but they will be reducing the amount of space that they've got. So we will be having to look to fill those spaces. And then Doubt Connect events, they're free. Please watch them. They're on YouTube. I've given you the links. Those are the ones that have happened. Any that I email out, they're free to attend. I think the next one is something to do with the councillor advocate scheme, which is about ASB. So maybe try and attend that one if you can. If you need links or you can't do it, please let me know. And then obviously at the end of my report, we've had from our past councillor, Pat Coates has sent us an update on Lee and Lincoln
Okay,
on behalf of the LLRA.
lovely. Thank you very much. All happy?
I think so.
Good. Item 11, RFO. Now, moment in the spotlight.
Yeah, I apologise, we haven't got a report from you because I've been on annual leave. We do have an addendum with the invoices that need to be agreed on. But if I just give you a quick view of the accounts. Currently, our business account has £180,587 in it. The commercial pool is £27,097. Our CCLO has £448,060, and that's the specified account. The working account for CCLO has £227,230 in it. And we have a nice amount within the petty cash because it was all topped up last month. So there's just short of £50 in one and just over 50 in the other. Stripe, there is nothing in there at the moment, but I've received the income to go in there today, which will go in probably at the end of the week, and that'll be around about £1,500. That's for the pod points, the electric charging. Our cashier's account has 658, but that will be rapidly reduced because it will be bank deposited in under business. Okay. And our Lloyd's charge card, we've been taking £901 on this very shortly. So that's all of our accounts. With regards to the addendum, is there any questions on any of these that you want to ask?
What's back? What's that council?
Things like the computers that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the IT.
Yeah.
And the admin for the wages that we don't pay back on wages these days. Any other questions?
What, in the, when this LGR into it, it was a shameless sales pitch for the CCLA bank. What was the other bank called that?
Unity.
Unity Bank. Anyway, basically, the two people did a 10-minute presentation, each said they should go with it, and why you should use that. So, are we content with where on the right side of the seashore?
Yes. In terms of the specifying the working accounts with CCML, they are a very good interest rate on this.
Okay, happy with that?
I mean, I've looked at others, but most are much less. So, propose that these invoices are made. Trevor, second of John, all in favour? Anybody explaining? Anybody?
Nice.
Just one thing to note, I have contacted our auditor for his, suspending his, registration and licenses. Because you will have to approve him as our auditor for 26-27. He hasn't replied, but I think he's going away, so he missed each other. So I will change that one, and I'll bring that to every meeting.
Right, Steve, program manager report.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand over to Charmaine really to give the bulk of the update. But I just wanted to highlight two things. So the first thing is to do with the Link Centre. So we had a conversation today with Devon County Council Estates. It was a very, very brief meeting. They didn't tell us anything more than what we know already, apart from they're about to do the work. That was it. So there's no pressure on anything. Yeah, it was a pointless meeting, to be honest, but they're agreed they're going to do the work. So that's what they promised to give us more updates as and when they know. The other thing that happened last week, so what's annoying to note, is Bells Place Sustainability. So we had a really good and frank meeting with Carol from Bells Place. The 5 main agencies that fund Bells Place have agreed to each of us put in £5,000, which we've already done, and the other ones we do as well. I think Carol has said within that meeting is that she will be looking at some point for an exit strategy. So she's very much engaged in this process. So now we can start to think about what that might mean. So she's saying that she's got had a good stint. Now's the time to be looking at how we can make Bells Place more sustainable and make it better, basically. We're not saying it's not better, but just different model of working. That's it.
Diplomatically put Trevor in good.
Any indication of what timeline?
Well, she said within 5 years. So it's not drastic, but I think what she would like to do now is to start those conversations so that she can feel confident that as she hands over as such, like she can get out and leave a legacy rather than get out and the doors closed. Yes, that's it. The only other thing I'm going to mention is I know that it's been a bit painful migrating the emails, but if anybody else is still struggling, let me know and I can help you fit you in. But I think most people are okay. Apart from the people. That was it.
All right. I just had a question on CCTV.
Yes.
And say that awaiting funding. Just give us a rough idea of what level of funding would be needed to put CCTV.
I think it works out. I think it works about £3,000 per camera. But I think Neil will give a breakdown because it changes all the time depending on which technology they're using. So at one time it was £10,000 per camera with the connection and with the connections here and the connection back to Barnstaple. But it's changed quite substantially. So I'll write that down and get Neil to.
Yeah, I think just in town, the last time we did discuss it, we've been talking about getting one of the land place that the co-owners. And that's a few months ago, it's £5,000. So that may have changed in the last couple of months. That every time.
It's maybe something we could just at least look into, because I think.
Well, I think it's definitely something that we can push if I can't be there, but on the 30th of July, having had conversations with certain staff at the PCC, they indicated that they might be able to help with funding. And I think if we are going to be getting the PCC here and having those conversations, I think that is the forum in which we can push that type of funding before we have to start looking at dipping into our own pockets. Because we do miss out, and where they keep saying that they have funded certain things, I think when you actually break down what they say they funded, what we get is about this much, and what they actually contribute is probably about this much out of a pot this big. So, for instance, when they say they're funding the street marshals, I think we had that meeting and it was about £1,000 to £2,000, and the contracts 420,000, 370,000 for Barnstaple and Milton together. Well, I don't know. I don't know the exact figures, but it was marginally, well, it was substantially smaller than I had anticipated. But, and I think that's where we need to start having those conversations, yes, but I think if any of you are going to that PCC meeting, that's where we will need to be pushing. Because I think rightly so, like, we should be asking, being brazen about it. It's the reason we wrote the letter.
In terms of the PCTV, we've got to see this play on and on and on. I mean, we're so frustrated back at it, we actually built our own, that's well true. We have 7 days storage on it, cost us about 300 quid, and storage is £10 a month. However, when time moves on, so now we've got to pay, it's 30 the same, isn't it? They pay for a video recorder. So it's obviously different to the one you get in February. And then, but what was said to us at that time is once you got that, that was the gap to the system, and then the cameras were cheap to add. That was.
I honestly,
It was just before.
it was before me, I'm afraid, yeah. So, I mean, we had the camera that was here, that got moved to the lantern, and they installed under the arches recently.
Yeah.
That was done through, I think, North Devon Council did that through the hotspot funding. I can't give you specifics, that will have to be something that Neil will have to bring back, but we can ask for what they are, we'll ask.
On this magic wall in Barnsley.
Yeah. It's all monitored feed as opposed to just individual CCTV. So, but we do have access to it here, so some of it, I think, because Gab has to get it an awful lot.
So it sounds like we need some structure to this meeting with the PCC.
I'm asking for that already, because I think that I want a better idea of what the agenda is actually going to be, because I think there's more that can be added to it, which would be of more value than just telling us how good they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should have our questions ready to be asked.
Yeah.
I've already had, IMTA meeting tonight as well, that's something that's not there, so we need to.
Yeah,
Together.
liaised with
Yeah,
Elliot.
It's really, is it just PCC or Joey over there as well?
The, so it was set up, so it's not come through us, it's come through the IVTA, this meeting, so it's not actually our meeting. I have said that we will work in conjunction with the IVTA on it. Joey, is unfortunately off on sick leave at the moment, but is aiming to try to be at that meeting. If she's unavailable to be at that meeting, then, she will, ask Malcolm Kirk, Sergeant Malcolm Kirk, to be there. So yes, we are having our police team represented. And I'd hopefully the PCSO Lindsay might be able to be there as well.
Right, we'll move on to the good news section, Simon.
Yeah, so hopefully, I'm assuming we all know by now, so Ilfracombe has been shortlisted as one of the 15 finalists for UK Town Culture, which is I'm going to say miracle, but it's not a miracle, so there's an awful lot of hard work put into it. But it's incredible news, and I've spent just months telling everybody, even to get shortlisted would be like out as well. So the fact that we have been is amazing. Big thanks to the people that supported this, particularly Mel, Helen Whedon, John Sellings, and especially Laura Elliott, who was the person who came to the Culture Club in the first place to say this is something that Ilfracombe should seriously look at, and has been very involved with helping me tweak and redraft and things as we go. So we have received £60,000 now to develop our bids. We haven't had any information yet from DCMS about what they precisely want us to do, but given what we put in our bids, we just imagine that they're going to want a full programme of what we want to achieve should 3 million be available or 250,000 as second and third place runners up. A lot of the £60,000 we said would be spent on community engagement. The whole process and the whole point behind the town culture is for it to be driven by the community, things that the community want to see. Obviously that's thrown up questions already on social media, people expecting us to buy property and buildings. It's not really for capital spend, but there can be money allocated to do the research into whether we can acquire buildings. So business cases, that sort of stuff, that can be built into that. We don't know what the time frame is going to be yet. It's obviously been a little bit later than planned initially. They were supposed to let us know by spring.
who the shortlist ones were, and I think at that point they wanted the full submission by September. I'd imagine it's probably going to be October now. But yeah, it's all just brilliant stuff. Like we've had lots of press interest, including Devon Live, which is interesting today. So yeah, that'll be fun. And it has obviously brought a lot of people out of woodwork to come and start showing their support. But I think what we need to be really careful of is not to let all of these consultants and agents and people, we were quite clever in the way that we did it initially, in that it was a small group of us. We kept it very clear. We didn't want too many cooks. And we don't want to lose that now. We don't want to start bringing in all of these people who are probably expecting to be paid because they know that they're going to do it. We don't want to do that. Having spoken to DCMS when they phoned us to tell us, they said that from the off, they said our application was fantastic. And they really loved the whole kind of thing that we were going on, the whole vibe that we were giving about it as the town. So I think it's really important that we kind of stick to that. But yeah, as soon as we get more information about what they want from us at the next stage, we will let you know, but it's going to be hard work because it was a very hard process for the expression of interest. So I'm slightly scared, but also very excited.
Just to put in context, I had meetings today with a number of clerks that I'm doing my training with, and one of the towns, I mean, I think about 3 or 4 that were on the pool were actually put a bid in. One of them had used a professional and didn't get it. So you can very much be commended for keeping it local. I think that's been key.
Yeah.
So
And we did use much AI, was I think is another thing.
yes, there was an awful lot. We found the double bodies on some of the postcards.
Just that, you'd be pleased that, not that it's going to change your life, you'd be pleased to know that the strategy was obviously moving this morning in the Devon Council was extremely good. It was done by their thanks, Panathon to the team and everybody. So,
Yeah, I spoke with Ken Miles and he said that North Devon Council are happy to support him with it, which is great. The likes of Alison Mills will be really key in this next stage. So
Thanks, Charlie.
you're welcome.
I think
Lovely of you to say.
on Monday, we need to chat at starting about how we start this.
Absolutely.
And can I suggest we circulate the actual bid, what
Yes, yeah,
was done?
yeah, that's another point actually quickly to raise, is that obviously we are still very much in a competition, as it were, so we're not going to be giving out real kind of explicit themes or ideas that we are looking to put into it. You can probably get an idea. So when I do circulate it, obviously just for your eyes only, really, just so you've got a bit of an idea about what it is that we're trying to achieve for 2028.
Very much. Right, well, let's move on to course proposals from the town councillors. I know we have one at 13.1 from councillor Crabbe, but I'm not going to start there.
yeah, it's pretty much as read. It was, if anyone's got any questions, I can answer them, but I think what we went to, I think Laura probably agreed, went to a room full of 100 people, all of them was just about as confused as we were.
Good to know.
Times, well, I mean, it was, it's in the report, you remember, you probably better than I wrote that than it is now, but there was a lot of feedback from parishes and towns that they weren't particularly happy about the process, and they all felt that they were being taken for a ride a little bit after that theme came through a little bit. Interesting, now, if you're in mid-Devon, you don't get anything. You've got to lease it for 99 years at a cost. So, there we go. On LGR, there's all sorts of nonsense in this morning, but they're saying that Ken Miles thinks that the Secretary of State's diary is clear tomorrow afternoon. So he thinks that might be indicative that he's got an announcement to make tomorrow afternoon. But literally, dark. These two like tomorrow.
Right, thanks for that. Any questions for councillor Crabbe? I mean, before.
Any questions on like Billy Watson?
Well, no, I thought it was good, and as I said at the beginning, you know, with the reports and circulating, we've done good to just clarify a couple of questions. Thank you for that. Any other town councillor reports? No, apart from Pat's, which,
She's not a town councillor anymore.
no. Right, to receive reports from working groups and councillor champions. First up, Neil.
Just to look through the revenue report. I suppose it's something that's been getting me for a little while, that we quite often get boxes of recycled left simply because it's the odd wrong thing in there. One of the neighbours left the green box out with two milk cartons on top. The box was left. He left it out, it was left out the next week. So I just took the milk cartons off and the box, and the next week it was taken. But a lot of people will have to throw it away because of these things. It seems to me a little bit like the optics of being a bit pedantic. This is exactly how it could be presented, so we refuse it if it's not exactly like that. Now, I don't think people are trying to be awkward with the general public are in general. They just don't understand. I know they can look online and.
So yesterday I had somebody tell me exactly about that. In that their brown bag had blown away, during winter. So they had a spare plastic container, they stacked all their cards flat and neatly in the box. And they refused to take it, so it wasn't in their container, which just seems crazy.
I don't. Yeah. I think we're money for that. It's actually cash crop.
Yeah.
Which is the crazy thing, it's like, common sense behind the windows.
I think from what I see of Neil's report that he wrote today, he's proposing that we, as a council, write to the.
Yes, I think it would be better coming from the town council than I have run up about it before, but
Yeah,
that sounds like an irate member of the public, and I might not be wrong.
yeah, it was good. No, sorry,
No, carry on.
no. So. Councillor Basil has got a proposal that we make this letter and write it,
Can I just jump in before we decide on writing the letter? I'm not saying not write it, Neil, by any stage. I just want to make you all conscious before you make choices on exactly how we word this letter, because as officers, we work very closely with the officers at North Devon Council. And the last thing I want is everybody's view to then make my job even harder. I think the relationships that we build, and we have specifically been building with officers with our partner agencies, has been improving. So I think that there's the possibility that this could go through the town team to start, because we do have representation there. I'm quite happy to email potentially Paul at North Devon Council and start the conversation, but I'm just conscious of writing. I don't want it to become a really stern letter and we just get people's backs up. I think it's a working partnership, isn't it? And maybe what we need to do is write to understand why these things are happening before we start holding them to account and with firm sticks. So, but I mean, I'm just saying that just to make everyone aware. This is not my decision on what you do. Obviously, I'm just trying to preempt us.
Would it be, I mean, I think one of the points that Neil raised has been that the bags going away from it, but I mean. I think it's a legitimate question. You could ask to say, why are we so picky about what cardboard goes in, especially as it's a cash crop?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a genuine legitimate question. And the other thing is, why have you got to ask for one of these nets? Why, I mean, they're not dear, can they not distribute them?
I think in answer to the nets, I do know this because this was only raised at a parish forum meeting, probably about a year ago. And it was a trial for the nets, and they didn't have that many. And it was in a very obscure place on the website that no member of the public would ever be able to find. And I know that because I tried and I couldn't find it. But we did manage to get quite a lot of them delivered. But And then the thing that we did was we didn't want to get them posted out, because what North Devon Council were doing was unpackaging them, to repackage them in an envelope to post them out to residents in the area, which seems an awful waste of resource and money. It made no sense to me whatsoever. So that's why we have them here now, so that everybody can pick them up from here, and that's what we've advertised. We put it out on our socials, and we've got a limited amount, but we put it out on our socials, and we have said, but it will be only to collect from here, because otherwise, realistically, I mean, I'm not kidding you, it's in a bag, it was being taken out of the plastic bag to be put into another bag that could go flat inside an envelope, and then that envelope was being stamped and sent, which makes no sense. So
If you're looking at things that make sense, I'm going to be things there now, recycle separate back.
yes, I think yes, that is an improvement.
Which are then bundled up and disposed in landfill because nobody wants it, you have zero value.
To say, talk about common sense. It'd be much more environmentally friendly if everyone had one container for all the recycling. And the big truck came around and you just bung it in. You don't have to park a diesel pumping truck for 20 minutes outside a couple of houses while it's all loaded up, holding up traffic. Bung it all in one truck and take it up and build a proper recycling centre where it can all be sorted there. You must remember environmentally friendly. Loads of different coloured plastics and bags and porcelain. That's the way we used to do it now. We do it in some areas, it depends on the sort of equipment you've got. It'd be fabulously expensive to get another sorting centres because I'm not happy. I'm sure it would be very expensive, but they certainly pay for itself very quickly. They've spent it up a lot. I mean, this is part of the point by using the two boxes. So actually what they do in general is empty the two boxes separately. One is full of light stuff and one's full of glass, and empty the other stuff. So they are quite fast. My point is that they can be almost as fast and educate at the same time. The most important thing I was saying about all this is that they inform the public when they leave it, why it is, why they have done. I think that is the same thing. That is the same thing, because this is why we get the mess, because people think they're behaving themselves. They think, I've done this nice before, I'll put my recycling centre applied. It hasn't been taken, and I don't know why. And people get frustrated because of this. It's bad, you know.
Councillor Basil has made 4 key points on here. I'm hearing that instead of writing a formal letter, there may be a more diplomatic approach to start.
Well, I think let's start with a diplomatic approach, if you don't mind, Neil, just either through the town team, or I will write an email with asking for some feedback to all of your queries.
I'd be quite happy with that, as long as I get the feedback.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then we start there before we start going down the formal letter routes.
The objections to that approach. So
Let's how are these nets are you still not thinking about? Is it a lot?
Sorry?
The nets?
I have no idea. They're downstairs. I can have a look when you go. I don't know that. I mean, I can ask that question. I don't know how many they've got in stock at North Devon Council, but we just asked for them and they deliver them. So the joy of having North Devon Council. Yes.
Yeah, I just wondered if it might be sort of worth putting that information out to somebody like, if actually North Devon or something like that, who've got quite a good reach. Ask them to stick it on their socials.
I've only got so many, so it went out on socials. Yeah, we did get, the first batch, a whole box went, so it's, I've got them.
6 foods you can buy it for a bloody net.
Or you can get your sewing machine out and start fashioning your own.
So at the moment then, we're going to cover these points in a structured way, and we'll be able to give Councillor Basil an update, see if it meets your satisfaction. If not,
And then we can always bring it
again.
down.
Yeah. Thank you. So, 15.2, public health champion report, Councillor Elliott, if that's been circulated.
It has been circulated, so I'm hoping that
Well, no point asking if there's any questions, but
unfortunately she's not available this evening to answer, but I'm sure if anyone did, they could email
yeah.
them through.
And that was one of the points I was gonna make earlier on, when we get these reports, we get them on a Wednesday before Monday's meeting, so it gives you days to contact the report writer. Thanks for that.
Be careful doing what you say is, but without saying which one's which, one of the people there has been flagged out 3 times to the appropriate and correct authority to say, unless you do something, this will happen. Probably.
Right, we move on 15.3, youth champion report, the Disco Diva. Thank you really. For the video.
Oh, I only saw the video.
Yeah.
I did my crime, I say that.
Big audience.
Hello, councillors. As you can see, I've written a quite long word report, which I'm going to read to you now. Because, you know, that wasn't the video of me. Anyway, so I've had some up, 2 visits to the academy, what I think are both enlightening and insightful. One was with Councillor Jubilees. Please read that report in detail. I will announce off the press that FEMA Trust is being disbanded as of today. It's going through a teleconsultation process, however, from the Secretary of Education to redistribute colleges or academies to the trusts. I haven't spoken to the academy about that today, obviously, but I will reach out to them. Obviously, we made what happens.
The parents will not go that, isn't it?
Yeah. But I will say, I think it was very nice when open doors to visit, and the head teacher has said that he would like to come and visit us in the next months. Obviously, we'll communicate with our town clerk and discussing that. So that's the academy. I'm not an expert in the academy, but please read my report. Youth club update. It's been a challenging period for youth club, as we will probably see in my report, where we had the shock loss of one of our volunteers who was fundamental to the start of it. So Spally, fantastic guy. Great interest by volunteers and also the young people that attend. We were very lucky to have passionate individuals move to this town and want to make a difference. And I'm truly thankful for what he did and he was very much to us. Again, as part of my report, the youth club is still in need of volunteers, even more so now with Ali no longer being with us. It's a fantastic thing to be involved in. Charmaine gets to do fantastic art and spray me with water. DJing, the video we did some DJing the other day. It's fantastic. It's offered kids such a different thing of opportunities to do. We've got plans in the summer to do a skate jam, whatever that means. I'm sure Councillor Crowd will get involved in that one and it skates out. But no, this youth club is going places and it's great for us. Alongside that, we are doing on street work as well and going out with volunteers on Thursday. Just going and engaging with the kids. We were out this week and we were doing trivia questions with the kids, getting to know them and laugh at them and getting informed them on what they can do. Because sometimes they don't know what they can do in town. So just giving them like, we're doing this skate jam in these times. Again, I know I'm approached on our health champions report, but I did include mental health as a person that's had my mental health scares in the past. I've been in that low place and it's not very nice. I iterate that I know we are not the authority to deal with it, but we can help direct people. And I think it's always worth understanding it to a small degree. I actually made my friends do a mental health first aid course a while ago, just because I think understanding can be improved. So that's a very important message. I would work with the health champion on that one, future references. And the future meeting, that was a very productive meeting in this room. Future is going through a phase of learning where we are, what our next step is, who do we need in the room. Which the youth club was primarily driven from that, but we understand that there's still things to work on. So I think it's a fantastic group to have. I don't know if any other town has a meeting where we dedicate bodies or youth charities that are coming to the room and discuss the importance of youth and what we can do. So I'm still trying to attend as many as I can, and I will report back when I can. But thank you for reading my report. Thank you for the time.
Yes. Anything else for councillor, yeah, please do, Sarah?
Well, thank Mr. Williams for a really, really informative report and for all the positive things and things you're saying that mental health now. I think it's really important.
I mean, it's a case of the week is aware that I can use a police sexy in the state.
I believe councils should actually see that in,
You probably don't have cushions, I'll do it, so.
you don't want to say false things on camera, so I think that's a statement made.
Padding may be appropriate. Right, moving swiftly on item 16 to agree to set up a biodiversity environmental working.
Yeah, so this basically came up as a part of my silver qualification. I started trying to draft a policy and action plan, and I think me and Laura realised it's a bit of a bigger piece of work, so it'd be good to get a working group together and look at it all as one, not just biodiversity, but environmental. And I know there's a bit of climate change stuff that was talked about a while ago, so yeah. Anyone wants to do that, feel happy to. Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing all right, so yes. I was about to say, anybody want to join, want to do it, but let's volunteer. Councillor Jenna, Neil Basil.
I would, but being mindful that I would say already got quite a lot on the plate.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I think I might need a proposal and seconder to actually agree to set it up, and then we can always, if you're happy to, not happy to,
Yeah.
do as a maybe, that's okay.
I propose that we set this working group up. Can I get a seconder? Neil Basil. All in favour? Nobody against? Extensions? No, good. So it's going to exist. We have our first or two first.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to do it? Councillor Crabbe, you have three.
Thank you very much.
Happy with that?
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Yes. Item 17, correspondences, licenses and notices.
So the first, well, I'll just go through them, and it is down to council to decide how they want to move forward. The first one is a letter from a resident, Mr. Legg, which is an extensive letter. So, and I know that councillor Elliott has formulated a response to it, which I circulated out to council members. So, decision as to which way you wish to move forward.
Right.
So, declaration responses to be made the official technical response, I'd be against that, but it might contain some facts, but it's, as I've expressed to Laura, it's a rather different letter, and it's the exact same letter that were to get anywhere near the Daily Mail would result in another camera crew coming down, backing themselves all over the town, along with it. I would suggest that we formulate a response to Mr. Lay in a rather less detailed manner. I mean, there's far too much detail in there, and again, it's if that was to get anywhere near the paper, I'm sure it. I was here, but I'm sure we can say the same. So I think we could be a lot more generic. I mean, it's got some genuine points. It's got genuine points. I mean, you know, it's the same old story again. You know, most you're in the high street, you know, you've got 3 or 4 federal. I can't say that. Can you? Yeah. Well,
I'm not.
So if you-
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that is not the letter to send as a reply.
Are you going to respond?
Well, I was going to make a suggestion rather than doing an official response. I have read the letter, but I'll be very honest, it was a while ago when it first came in, so I haven't had a chance to refresh my memory. But would this not be something where we can potentially invite Mr. Legg in and have a discussion as officers? Rather than formulating a letter and go through what we are actually working on and what we aren't and where things are at, because I think there's probably a few things in there that we can already answer through the work that IRB are doing or one Ilfracombe is potentially doing.
You love the idea, but mind you, it's about 10,000 residents, and how long that take?
Well, that's why we have a town meeting. And potentially that's another forum that we could say, but maybe what I'll do is if council are willing is I can have that conversation and maybe go through it and
That's inviting to the town meeting.
I did, and unfortunately he wasn't available today to come in, and he wasn't available at a previous meeting, even though, because it was sent to me just before the June full council meeting. Well, I mean, it's up to council how they want to proceed.
Well, do that. That's my vote. Yes.
I would second that. I think that's the best option. You know, it's nice to talk to a person rather than send a letter. You know, it gives us a chance to actually express, isn't it, what we're doing, you know, and not have to just put it in.
Yeah. Or the other alternative, I can find an appropriate meeting that potentially could outside, maybe a full council, maybe it's a town team meeting.
Not an objection, you need them to say, I just think of the consequences.
Yeah, no. Oh, no, I completely agree. I will not be inviting absolutely, but this is why we have these meetings once a month.
So at the moment, we have a letter drafted by Councillor Elliott as a response. What I'm hearing is not to send that, we're not authorising sending that letter. And we're going to counter that with a meetings and that's all.
Yeah.
We've got a proposal and a second for that. All in favour of that course of action? Anybody against? Any abstentions? Good.
I'm not going to ignore just Councillor Elliott's response. I think we can formulate that within that discussion. Yeah, just so we're aware. I'm not shutting that down in any way.
Good.
Okay.
Ms. Hayden's letter.
Right.
So-
I think you want to start 14 and not the council wasn't strict.
Oh, we did miss you, Al.
Well, the thing, reading something.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, well spotted. We also brings that through and, yeah. Can we finish correspondence tonight? All right. Right, the other items of correspondence.
So we've had a letter from Ms. Payne with regards to Wildersmouth Beach, and this isn't the only one. I know I've had correspondence with Councillor Turnbull as well, with regards to Wildersmouth Beach, and we're trying to get it redesignated as a bathing beach, basically, especially with the shutting off tunnels. So we've not, as officers, we've not ignored it in the meantime. We have actually spoken to North Devon Council. So we forwarded on, we had an email from the Biosphere, North Devon Biosphere, kind of highlighting what the process would be and how much it would cost potentially to get the testing done on a regular basis. That was obviously sent off because we do know the officer that deals with the water quality around the area at North Devon Council. So we sent it off for feedback to find out what North Devon Council's position from the specific officer. This hasn't gone any further. We haven't kind of raised it any further, that the officer would be reluctant to reopen that at this stage without it coming directly from the Environments Agency. We haven't taken that any further and approached the Environments Agency. So it's down to councillors how they wish to move forward with this, because obviously if we start going down this, it's an awful lot of work that we would potentially need to all, it's an awful lot of liaising and convincing to get the Environments Agency on board. They would have to do an awful lot of work, not Devon Council with Biosphere. So I think it's more than just a response to a letter.
Is it worth me going back to, it was Darren Searle, I think,
yes,
my contact at the Biosphere, who actually wrote that email. And he does have probably the right contacts at the Environment Agency with whom he works on the road, if you like.
Well, I think, yeah,
Is it worth it just seeing if you'd like to have some float of any discussions, so completely informally, or, you know?
Well, just to say the things moving on, personally, site, there's nothing like that photograph before.
no, we're away.
We can keep it done like that. It's gonna be covered over next week. The only solution to this, and it's been banged. It's been going on for 5 or 6 years, is to outside the ground, the culvert is very flatty. Literally, you lift a manhole, stick your hand in, it comes out wet, and it's only that deep. It's only massively deep and a problem down where it is, because it suddenly shoots down through that garden, and then it goes down again rather than museum, which is why the water, which is why I can't understand whether we do a water where it's the culvert, but we're lining. So the only solution to this is to go outside the road there, take the road up, put concrete pipes down the road, turn the left where Jonathan Edwards jumping thing is, and fire it straight into sea. Hugely, it's probably solved. Not a cheap solution. About 700,000 probably, but in the scheme of things, that's not a great deal of money. It's probably about the same cost as a new lead map kind of thing. But somebody's to come up with the money, and then the other thing you have to look at is if somebody did come up with the money, Gary Ashton would suddenly become a very wealthy man, but no cost or expense himself. So there's a discussion there maybe to that. But that realistically is the only solution that, and once it goes out to sea, we had a presentation in Southern Beaches about 10 years ago when it first got designated. They said, once it starts to sea, it's only about a minute. And most of the nasties have been rotten, so.
Okay, so what are we gonna do with it? I mean, I guess in principle, are we in favour of? Right, so open up.
Yes, we put a team
Well-
together again.
I was gonna say, well, sorry, Chair, if you don't mind. Maybe before we start putting teams together for meetings is potentially let us as officers or ask us as officers to kind of start that process of speaking to the Environment Agency and trying to get a bit of an agency working discussion together. So that we've got a better understanding before we actually go down any further. I think once we've got the position of what the Environment Agency is willing to do or not willing to do, then we'll have a better understanding as to what North Devon Council is willing to do or not willing to do, and then whether or not the biosphere is going to get involved as well. So I think it's a process. So if we start those conversations and get at least send an email and ask the Environment Agency what their position is, because otherwise we're kind of going blind.
Can you email Simon Dark specifically, because he's done a huge amount of work on this. This is no longer his thing. He's not in that department anymore, but he had quite a nice new design, that's another bit, new design.
At the Environment Agency, is this?
Simon Dark.
Yeah. Well, we can start those and maybe through, with Neil, and because he works very closely with the team at North Devon Council, because obviously of Heel Beach and the meetings we've had to try and get the water quality up there. I think it's not unknown to us as to what needs to happen. So let me start finding out the position, maybe.
Well, are we in favour of that approach? Sorry.
It's also, Martin, isn't it? Really. I don't know how long it's taken them, a long time. But it might be worth to work on that beach, to the water policy set on the beach, pollution of the river, is it Umber, stretch, it comes out on Martin Beach, and it's successful, but for me, I think it would be fantastic to return as well for Baby Beach, now that we've done it, so be worth investing in the long term.
That's a William.
It's slightly helpful Bristol, but I'm pretty sure part of the reason they got it changed, they actually banned dogs going on the beach for part of the year. Probably a byproduct of us probably doing the same thing. That would be just one thing to know.
So if we keep it fairly high level at this point and say, is the council happy to pursue reinstating Wildersmouth Street bailiff in principle?
Yeah.
Are we all in favour of that?
Yeah. But I'm just a bit concerned about. I can just see a bloody camel coming out of this, that's all. It was a clear scheme, all designed, all costed, everything was done, box ticked. Gary actually said, sod off on and pay and stop, but if you get. Well, you can try, but what point I'm making is, if I've these informal discussions, and someone in the environment thinks that it was a very good idea to design a camel. You're stuck there, you've got to build a camel, because they'll think that it was the only thing they will let you go and build is a camel. That's my only concern with it, because if you go for it and say, look, it's a cracking idea, let's resolve all your problems. That's it.
Let me start doing a bit of the research on what was discussed previously, some of the history behind it before we start going down it, and I'll do it sensitively and not have any camels built.
So to say, we don't know enough about where the solution's coming from the start, so we can't necessarily say that there's only one solution to it.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that actually, because there was no data on them, was probably been able to quite some.
I mean, I've been
to get actually bad, it's a bit. Not really probably, but.
That by,
Yeah. But that anyway, you know, just use volunteers to take samples. Yeah, I think a lot of people want to do that. Yeah, he did cost it, it was about £2,500 for 6 months, but about £5 for a year. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, well, I think the council's in agreement with trying to make it happen. Investigate and report back, please. I think that's the best way of that. Purple Museum.
Yes, so the museum have sent through the post-past proposal. Basically, this is they're asking for a letter of support so that they can put in their lot. I think it's the lottery bid funding, if I'm not mistaken. So I've written a draft letter so that you can read it. I have run it past Lindsay at the museum just to check that I was on track. But if council is happy, I think it would be worth sending them a letter of support.
Yeah, I was up as an individual as well.
Yes, I think yours has been, we've got that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
The letter's been shared, so I'll propose that we send that letter of support. Second, you're in favour?
No.
Anybody against? No.
Good, thank you. And then, right, the very last letter that we have is from the football club, or from the youth football. I did try and get in touch, or I did respond to Laura Elgar, who I'm presuming is obviously the welfare officer at Ilfracombe Youth Football Club, to try and get a better understanding of the relationship with the adults football club, because I don't understand it and I don't know what exactly they need. I think it's very difficult. We obviously don't have any land potentially ourselves that we can offer unless you want to give up a car park, but I don't think that's necessarily going to be popular. So at the moment it's to note, I think. I will keep trying to find out more about the relationship, and I will keep trying to, I think it's probably something that can be brought up as part of the Ilfracombe Regeneration Board, maybe. Through the North Devon Council, because they're the ones that have and own all the land mostly in Ilfracombe. So it's to note. I will keep trying to get back in touch with Laura. And then I'll let everybody know, I think, unless anyone has got anything that they'd like to know or has more insider information.
Well, fair.
Well, I don't know inside information, but just wondering if, in the context of local government organisation, the assets, whether if they thought it was worthwhile, we could potentially support them asking the council, ask North Devon Council, would they transfer the asset of the Kilkenny?
Yeah, that's Devon Council.
Which is Devon
Council, and I think committed to the school, if I'm not mistaken. So But I get your point about LGR, and I think that there's definitely conversations to be had.
Devon County are going to be.
Yeah.
Shuttling their assets at some point.
Yeah.
It's the end of flat. It's a
We can have the conversations definitely with the officers and see what happens. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. They'll keep it all. Don't know.
Good. Right, well, let's move exactly like, sorry, item 14. Well, I'm listening. Active report, reports from county into the county. Right. Go around the table.
Yeah, go on, like 10 seconds. LGR we talked about. District actually buying 6 small temporary accommodation properties in Barnstable. They identified the fact that previously in temporary accommodation is single rooms for single people. So they're now thinking of the next, not this lot, but the next batch, they might well have a HIMO or a well, or promote well-managed HIMOs in the local plan. The hint in there, well-managed, as opposed to most of the ones in probably single. Their current biodiversity gain currently stands at 17 hectares, a lot of which was Yellow Valley woodland, but obviously you've got park primrose, you've got, well, other bits of local humans gone into that. Consultation local plan, we touched on, you're into that. That will come up later. Occupation of anglers. Oh, so we know there's 960 houses in North Devon empty for 3 months or more. Some have been redeveloped, many of them are not. And the only other thing I was going to say is on Sarah's report, it says that Devonshire Homes would go on, but Devonshire Homes limited our administration. That I was involved in a thing where we tried to offer the receivers a large envelope of cash to the Parkville houses. Extremely large envelope, it's quite a suitcase, the Parkville houses. And they said that Devonshire Homes Ilford has not gone into administration without being put in touch with the directors, because the directors are still running the firm. So I suspect it won't be long, but at the moment and there's another thing that it might be else with it, somebody else. There's another building firm that's interested in taking over the site, but I think it's only a discussion stage. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to come out really good, which not ever.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, that was my mistake. Devonshire Homes Limited is gone.
Yeah.
It's becoming solvent. They've bought and all the subsidiary companies that are
There's
paying
two.
for as well.
I think Youngstown and something else.
But Marin's Haven technically is still.
So when nobody's there, it's
So
literally.
it's
Yeah.
Devonshire. Ilford, we've got obviously all the other ones that are still solvent. The plant has disappeared and everything else, so it's.
So it's Gavin is still there.
Yeah,
It's coming.
It's better.
It's Gavin back.
No, thank you, Pat. That's good.
My committee to governance, very quickly, external audit that we're having, which is flying way through July and the finance will be September, similar to the internal audit carrying on as always, lots of statistics and graphs and stuff. Yeah, the hearing panels for the code of conduct have never been seen that before on the governance books. They've all been there apparently. I'm in now, just letting you know. Which never come up whilst I've been there, the code of conduct or an appeals for governance yet. They didn't come in until last time we had. That's that one. But that's been an issue. But the only other thing I think would be interest of you is if you have support for district council where people can go in and ask about things for what's going on, complaints or things. They had 14,000 customers come through last year, so they've increased their time with their staff for every day of the week, now 9 to 5. I think that's the most interesting stuff that came out of the meeting. The licensing meeting has been cancelled for tomorrow. So I have no update other than stuff that
Around, Councillor Williams.
Well, obviously, I'm sorry, Councillor.
John, like to ask, we with each 14,000 people that go through the Barnstable hub. Why don't we, well, because our staff was taken away because they said that nobody used face-to-face on the table anymore, they were no longer necessary. So, if they could dig out that letter, find what's going on there, then, you know.
What? No. I said it didn't already.
Sorry, as you know, I've been away on holiday. Well, you know, just to make you all very jealous. So obviously I haven't really had much to do. Like Councillor Clough, I went to SNR today. And again, we echo the grateful thanks to the culture team. You know, it was lovely to sit there and gloat. And I'll be honest, you know, it was really, it really made my morning because, you know, we were able to speak positively about it. And we were congratulated by multiple councillors and other councillors. So, you know, it really, as I say, I'm sure Councillor Craft was saying, you know, my head was getting bigger and bigger. But anyway, but apart from that, obviously LGR was covered, which again, Councillor Craft was covered. On Wednesday, we are going on a site visit. So I hopefully will have a bit more to tell you about planning site visits. So that should be an interesting one. But obviously I won't be able to report back until the next week. So I do apologise, as I say, nothing's like this.
I'll never apologise for a holiday, Julie. Councillor Worth.
Said my thoughts, I don't know if anyone's got any questions. I am getting lots of feedback from very concerned residents at Barons Haven. I've spoken to Devon County and the council. One of those things, when it's a private development, so most of it falls out to that. But we have got the spectre of a place called Home Farm in South Devon, which we very much hope this doesn't, which has become a nightmare. It's an unfinished development where the sewers were never adopted correctly, and the residents have now been asked to pay £700,000 to make them good. So that's a worst case scenario. But in all of this, the residents haven't been contacted once by Devonshire Homes themselves to say what's happening. They've only found out by observing that everyone's picking up their stuff and leaving. So there are people who've paid for houses, not 100% because they're only 50% built, but they've invested substantial amount of money in houses that are now finished at first story, and they're not sure when they'll get their money back. So there's a lot of concern about adoption of the roads, the pavements, the sewer system, who's going to do the snagging in the buildings, which is covered by, well, normally a developer should do it for the first 2 years, but in this case, it's with the NHBC. So it's all lots of stuff that could be quite clear from their own, so I'm going to meet them. The council's only got a limited housing, these kind of things. It's really frustrating that at the end of the day, it's the residents and us as people buying houses that drives the whole model, and then when something goes wrong, then we'll ask. So yeah, hopefully someone will like to it out as it is, and it's built and complete what's there, so that we can have a community building, which is now just a mothballed entity. No one's ever been in it. I have been in it, so it's a shame that it's not being used yet. So yeah.
A lot of open gym and was happy to use it, but the district council voted to turn to 106 and they couldn't fix it.
Because it's community building.
Yeah.
Yeah, LGR, there's a committee for LGR, I don't know if that's which one. pleasure of being on. That's going to be very frenetic. And I have the pleasure as well of going to the last week to ask about their inclusive education practices. And I have got some news things afoot which I'll share at my meeting when it's a bit more public, but it's good news. So I was saying Slowly Academy, and I had a work experience student from the company a couple of weeks ago who was fabulous as well. So that was really positive experience. Okay.
Thanks, Sarah. Anything else for Sarah? Nothing.
So, person can't share it, is it the beacon, is it, there's a bit of a public meeting on that? Which time,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's, you mentioned,
Lovely.
you mentioned it to us and special detail, but
Yeah.
you could have a public meeting, but,
That's
video to parents.
yeah, the beacon.
because that will fit with obviously Devon Council wanting to see inclusive education practice as much as possible and see schools doing all they can to do that. And academies have been, outside of the remit of Devon Council as education authority, but I want to work with academies to encourage even more inclusive practice. So the fact that they decided to do this is a really good step forward. So it's but exclusions in Devon are far too high, and so county-wide it's still a massive issue. But in other things, hopefully science.
Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to 17.5, we have a couple of applications for premises licenses for Woodmouth Lodges and for St James's Keeley. Anything to say on those, or are you holding them?
Unless you have very specific objections with an awful lot of background information.
No, so,
But normally they would go to planning, but I think because the deadline's on them, they've come to full council.
so you are aware that we don't need to do anything. Anything apart from motion. Thank you.
Only thing I'm a bit concerned about is again, those venues count the DJ takes to make some sort of double base for something that.
I was a good teacher.
These days, it's always available.
That helps you more to go and make it.
The last item on the agenda is chair's discretion, which we're going to have under part B. So I'm going to propose that we move to part B. Can I get a second? Anyone in favour? Right, we'll move to part B. Members of the public. You need the other option, do we?
Yes, yeah. Like, well.
No.
Okay, so they don't get the rubber time. People DJ, like, church,